We're now, of course, in the third week with no speaker. No end in sight. The government could shut down in a month. You can't pass assistance to Israel or help address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Those are the things we've been talking about. What are we missing? What are the other impacts of not having a speaker?
Well, Jen, thank you for having me. And you're exactly right. We are 25 days from the next shutdown. 3 weeks of chaos and dysfunction, and there still is one clear path forward, and that is work with Democrats on behalf of the American people. And that has been our offer and continues to be our offer. Let's get back to doing the work that we were sent to Congress to do. And you've listed the things that are so important. Avoid a shutdown, address our national security and the needs of our allies, continue the Democrats' work of lowering costs for the American people, and finally, elect a speaker who is going to defend democracy, not degrade it. And what we've seen so far, if we just look at last week, all of that was rejected to pursue a speakership of Jim Jordan. So we are in a very dangerous and extreme place with the House GOP.
Now, Jim Jordan, which is such a good example. I mean, he is an election denier, somebody who defended the insurrectionists. I could go on, as I'm sure you could. And Leader Jeffries obviously spoke about how he was not qualified, he shouldn't be, but there were men and women who were. Are you all discussing privately of these candidates or others? Is there a Republican candidate or Republican candidates you could work with or you would be comfortable working with?
I think there are many different candidates that we could work with because it's not about a single person. It is about who is going to end this civil war and get back to work for the American people. Who is going to work with us on the deal that we already made and voted for back in June that set budget levels, that said we agreed not to have any of these poison pills added into those bills. What we're seeing is a Republican Party that has rolled back that agreement and put national abortion bans in everything from defense to agriculture bills. I mean, their wholehearted adoption of the most MAGA extreme parts of their caucus is a rejection of what the American people are asking us to do. Come together, put them first, and get back to the real work we have to do on their behalf.
So you don't have to tell me who, because it might tank their candidacy. But of the 8 candidates, is there anyone on that list, or more than one person on that list, that you could see yourselves working with as members of Democratic leadership?
You know, again, we've been having this discussion. Send us somebody who's going to give us the tools to work in a bipartisan way to get back to work on all the things we need to do. And, you know, we were having these discussions last week when we saw 90% of their caucus reject working with Democrats, reject reopening the House in favor of electing Jim Jordan Speaker of the House, someone who has plotted to overturn our elections, who is the author of the bill on a national abortion ban, who has never voted to feed hungry children in this country. I mean, he is so extreme in every way, a true threat to our democracy. But somehow in this civil war, that was a better option than saying, let's go back to the agreements we've already made. Let's work with a Republican speaker to move our country forward.
It was hard to believe that Jim Jordan emerged as he did for the time being, for that period of time. Now, there's still, and Jake Sherman was just telling me about this, how there is still this buzz among running Republicans that the Speaker pro tem, Patrick McHenry, who kind of came and went, but it could come back to empower him with the ability needed to be Speaker. Is that something that you think Democrats could get behind if that's where Republicans land by the end of this week?
You know, since January and the 15 rounds it took to elect Kevin McCarthy, the Democratic caucus has been extending our hand in bipartisanship. We have been saying, we understand you're in the majority, you're going to have a Republican speaker, but let's have somebody who brings the bills that are important to the American people to the floor, just like we did in the majority. We were able to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill that's making key investments right now in communities that are paying off, whether that's roads or bridges or broadbands or expanding EV infrastructure. Key things, getting lead pipes out of our communities that I hear from constituents and people across this country is making a difference in their lives. When we were in the majority with the exact same thin majority, we were able to do amazing things because we were willing to work on what the American people sent us there to do, not a partisan extreme agenda. So I hope that they will come out of this next round of them trying to find a candidate for speaker with that goal in mind. Let's go back and look at what we were able to do. Infrastructure, increasing American manufacturing, lowering the cost of insulin, investing in green technologies. These are positive things for the American people that we put before them and encourage bipartisanship. So we need to get back to what people are talking about around their kitchen tables and have the Republican Party stop their civil war, stop this march towards extremism, and get back to work.
Well, we'll see what emerges tonight if we're still in the middle of chaos. Congresswoman Katherine Clark, the Whip, Democratic Whip, thank you so much for joining me.